All right, everybody, welcome to this Thursday night edition of the Live Well here at Fish North Georgia. We are so glad you guys could join us tonight. If you're watching on YouTube, of course, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, click that notification bell. And if you're listening to this later or watching it later, whether it be on iTunes, Spotify, or again, YouTube, hey, we appreciate you guys as well. Make sure you follow Fish North Georgia on all our social media platforms. We've got a fantastic show for you guys tonight. Going to be talking wintertime bass fishing with the living legend himself. He don't like me calling him that, but the living legend, Bill Payne, is in the house. I know he's a favorite of a lot of you guys. And so make sure you bring your questions and your comments tonight. If you want to know anything about wintertime bass fishing, get him in here. We'll make sure we ask Mr. Payne all that too. Got a couple of announcements before I get to the sponsors too. This is the last night, and tomorrow you got, if you want to get one of the Fish North Georgia hoodies on the pre-sale, I'm putting the order in tomorrow afternoon. So if you want to guarantee that we got your size in stock, go to fngo.com and order yours today or in the morning. Don't wait. We are going to get a few more in the shop, but when we get them in the shop, they go fast. So if you want to make sure we got yours, go ahead and put that order in. So let's go ahead there, Mr. Tim, and hit our fine sponsors tonight before we get going. And, of course, we always want to start with Sonar Pros. Trent and the guys over there, 770-530-4505. Again, I say it every time, the best in the business when it comes to installation of your high-dollar electronics. Take your boat where the pros go. Also, too, they offer boat detailing and a lot of new services over there at their new location off Highway 369. I went and spent some time with Trent yesterday. When they get that retail part open, it's going to be fantastic. So, again, Sonar Pros right there. If you're on Lake Lanier and you want to catch some megalodons, if you don't know what a megalodon is, you need to go to Facebook and go to Lipsticker Fishing's page. You'll see megalodons. If you're interested in catching some big Lake Lanier spotted bass, Kevin Underwood is your guy. You can find him on Facebook or lipstickerfishing.com. Hey, he was just our guest the other night, so go back and watch that. One of the best in the business. Again, all our high dollar rods, you want to protect them with the best rod sleeve on the market. That is the Evolve rod sleeve sitting right here by me from Evolve Fishing. Just got another order placed. Going to have some more restocking the store here. They float. They do not allow your hooks to get snagged. You know what happens when you use a cheap rod sleeve. This rod sleeve right here, listen, there's a lot of knockoffs out there. This one right here is the best on the market. EvolveFishing.com. And of course, hey, same thing with lures. We got a lot of money involved. A lot of money involved in our tackle boxes. If you get snagged up, you want to have the best lure retriever out there. That is the Money Saver lure retriever. We had guys in the comment sections the other night. One guy said, I've saved over $100 worth of lures in the last 2 weeks using the Money Saver. It's legit, shoots through the water like a torpedo. And I'm telling you what, you will not regret the investment. And then, of course, we want to thank our guest beside us, who is now a sponsor on the show, Mr. Bill Payne himself, with Bill Payne's Guide Services, Lake Allatoona, and select other lakes sometimes. That's about the best way to put it, just if they want to go that. Also, seasonally, smallmouth trips. And listen, he's been on the show several times talking about forward-facing sonar. The guy's a guru when it comes to that. If you want to master your forward-facing sonar, you need to go take a sonar trip with Mr. Payne himself right there. So we appreciate Bill coming on as a sponsor. And then we got now a new one that just started today. Guys, again, another one of our favorite guys coming on here. One of the best guests, Brooks Anderson Fishing. Okay, he services the Lake Lanier area. A couple things about Brooks. First of all, not only does he know how to catch these fish, but he's got a heart for these high school anglers. So if you've got an up-and-coming angler that he wants to help them get their journey started, Brooks is perfect for that. He's a great teacher. Again, same thing too. He does sonar trips, and he wants to kind of help you dial in your sonar. And he's really passionate about teaching the guys on Lake Lanier the patterns of why some baits work, some baits don't, when targeting spotted bass. So definitely, you can check him out at brooksandersonfishing.com. All right. So again, let's go wide behind me there, Mr. Tim. Our buddies over in Jasper, Georgia at Turner Tires, 706-253-3339. If you're in the market for tires, alignments, or anything, go to one of these family-owned places. And you get that right there with Turner Tire. Brock and the guys up there will treat you like family. And with all our sponsors, tell them Fish North Georgia sent you. So there's our sponsors. We appreciate those guys. And listen, if you got a company and you're interested in sponsoring the live well, partnering with us, hey, we would definitely love to talk to you. A couple of other things I want to mention before we get started. There's Mr. Father Time. Put it back on there. You awake right there?
I'm
It
awake.
looked like his eyes were closed there, Tim, for a second, didn't it? Right
No,
there.
I'm
So
good.
let's talk real quick about 2 tournaments going on. Fishers of Hope. I believe it is November 23rd. Yeah, so it's coming up. They got a benefit tournament. They're partnering with New Union Baptist Church on Lake Chateau, going out of the Georgia Mountain Fairgrounds boat ramp. Entry fee is $100. It's a 50-50 payback. And what this money is going to is the Mars Hill community in North Carolina. So that is an absolute great thing to be a part of. So, again, Fishers of Hope, if you want to get in touch with them, Cole Davis, that's the number. I forgot to write Tony Watkins' number down again, but Cole Davis, 706-994-6099. And, of course, let's real quick go over the Toys for Tots. Pre-registration ends next Friday. Okay, guys, you can go ahead and pre-register now. You're going to launch in the order that you're signed up. And this is for our December 7th Toys for Tots tournament going out of Laurel Park, brought to you by Digital Sportsman. Fish North Georgia and Big Shanty Bassmasters are putting this on. The goal is to get 80 to 100 boats. Okay, $5,000 first place prize is guaranteed. The sponsor money is already in. We got it. And then the paybacks will be based upon the number of boats or places 2 through whatever. If we have 1,000 boats, hey, we'll pay on a little bit farther down. But the big thing is, guys, listen, you got to bring, if you want to sign up, you got to bring a toy per angler. And it's all about helping the kids out in Hall County have a good Christmas this year through the Hall County Toys for Tots. So not only do you get to come fish, you're doing something good for the community. And think about what these kids are going to do when they wake up Christmas morning that might not have anything. You can be responsible for helping put a smile on their faces and making some families' holidays really, really special. So go ahead and pre-register at Buford Dam Bait and Tackle. You can come in there. You can come here at Fish North Georgia and register. If you're out of the area and neither one of those are convenient, you can call me or message me, text me 678-283-6700, and I will get you signed up online. Now, that registration cuts off on the 29th. You can sign up the day of the tournament, but why not go ahead, get signed up, know where you're going to blast off at, and just kind of miss all the headaches of trying to register the morning of. So with that, did I catch everything, Tim? I think I got everything.
I think we're good.
Let's see who all's in the comment section so far. Ooh, they got some snow up there in central Kentucky, Jeremy says right there. So what's going on, everybody? Mark Marietta, love the show. Have you lost weight?
No.
Thank you. Yes, I have. I am down 17 pounds. I'm not going to tell you how, but I have. So I appreciate you noticing that. That makes me feel good. So let's put the camera on our guest of honor tonight. Right there. Look at that. There is more knowledge has been lost in this man in the last week than I probably know for my entire life. And he don't want me saying it. Look at him. I know I said that. Very humble guy, but a very smart guy. And we always love when he comes on where we can pick his brain. And we're going to talk wintertime bass fishing. And so, Bill, I appreciate you joining us tonight.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Hey, we had a talk about humility before the show. So, listen, I will say this, that we always get a lot of great questions on the nights that Bill is on, but sometimes we don't even get questions once he gets talking because they're like, pay attention. You got to listen. Coleman Jones, we have an AFFL tournament on Hartwell this weekend. Would love to see you guys there. So, hey, if you're in Hartwell, go join the Armed Forces Fishing League up there. That would be very, very cool. Also, yeah, real quick. Serve IT is now our sponsor for the question of the night tonight. If you answer Kevin's question, we're going to send you a couple packs of Lanier baits and this Spro shirt right here behind me that we got. That Spro was so nice to send us. Tony Watkins, you're in the comment section. If you don't mind, put your contact number because I put out about your tournament and I forgot to write your number down on that. So I gave out Cole's number, but we want to make sure everybody can get in touch with you. Again, that's November 23rd. So get ready for your questions. Get ready for your comments. Bill, I'm going to throw you a softball to start. Fall to winter. Right now, we've had an extended fall. Been a lot warmer, but we finally got what I think is our first good kind of true cold snap of the year. As the weather gets cooler and the water gets colder, fish are at X right now, and they're going to move to Y. Where can we find these fish now, and where will they be moving to, say, as the water gets down into the 50s and such? What's their first natural movement?
Well, as we all know, or I guess learn sometimes the hard way, in the fall, the bait fish start working their way up the tributaries and up in the long pockets and sometimes short pockets, but they seem to move in that direction. And there's a portion of the fish, a large portion of the fish that wind up going with them, and it just makes it really easy to target one group of the fish in the lake that follow the bait. And if you get in the ditches, the creek channels, the pockets, and find the bait, you're going to find fish around them right now.
Mm-hmm.
And those are some of the easier fish to target right now. That's not the only population of fish. There's always some fish shallow, and if you like to shallow fish, you can do that. But I think it's the best, easier to go target the bait fish and find the fish that are feeding up for winter right now.
Yeah.
That are around those fish.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you fish Allatoona a lot, and so do you, Kevin. Now that the blueback heron, everybody on Lake Lanier knows it's loaded with blueback heron. It's the dominant food source for most of your spotted bass out there. But now that Allatoona is getting a population, and it's a sustainable population of blueback heron, is that changing any of the patterns from years past as far as getting ready for the winter?
Well, I notice it making a big difference in a lot of the year, the spring, and especially the warmer months, the summer daytime fishing. And but in the fall, I'm still looking for those fish, even the blueback, to move into the tributaries, and not all, but some.
Mm-hmm.
And the fish, they're there after them. They're feeding up for winter.
So what's up, Tom Erico and Adam W. Fishing, Tony, all you guys. Hey, listen, we appreciate you. Seaburger03 says Bill with a bunch of exclamation points out there. So you got you some fans out there watching tonight. The biggest thing that I hear, and I think we hear, is it seems like in fall fishing, it jumps straight from whatever pattern's working now, and everybody automatically says ditch. I mean, it just jumps from that to, sometimes we get the crankbait bite a little bit. People will talk about the rock crawlers and stuff, but it seems like it goes directly to the ditch. When do the fish actually start transitioning into ditches? Well,
this year, the warm weather persisted for so long that I think it happened just a little bit later. But over the years, we used to target those fish with jigging spoons a lot. And a lot of times the jigging spoon bite would start at the end of September.
Really?
But I don't know. It just seems like, I don't want to get into the whole global warming thing, whether you believe it or you don't. But I don't think it's just this year, but the last 3 or 4 years, I've just noticed now that November is more like what I used to remember October being.
Right.
And it's kind of shifted. And I don't know if that's just a short-term little difference in the weather due to just the prevailing weather patterns we've had. But at any rate, October seemed a lot like what September used to be.
Mm-hmm.
November has seemed more like what October used to be.
That's right.
But whatever the reason, we've seen in October a lot of fish, a lot of bait fish migrating into the ditches, the drains, whether you want to call it a ravine, a creek channel, a pocket, any kind of drain that goes for a distance, makes a depression, and it's deeper than everything, the banks, and whether there's flats on the side, but where that old channel was or the bottom of the ditch, that's where the bait it migrates to those areas. And a lot of times it may not be on bottom, but it stays over that deepest water. It's kind of funny. You can run across an area with flats that has old creek channel in it, and you won't see anything, but you look on your depth finder and you see where the edge of the channel started. Suddenly you start seeing bait. You go across, there's bait in it. You come out of it, there's no bait. Those fish like to be over that deepest part of the creek channel and so forth.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's say Lipsticker says, "What's up? Hey, Mr. Bill, good to see you." That's Kevin Underwood. Gone fishing with Diaz. Last weekend on Allatoona, I noticed the spotted bass were feeding on 2-inch gizzard shad, no herring. Every fish I caught was spitting them up. Is it just they were there when he was fishing? So gizzard shad, I imagine he's on Allatoona. So is that just opportunity? The gizzards were there and they just took advantage of it?
I would guess. I mean, to me, it doesn't matter whether there's blueback there, thread finned, or gizzard shad. Whatever the bait's there, the fish are going to be there. It's just incidental. It just kind of pulls everything together, and it makes it a little easier to target those fish. They're there feeding on the bait.
Yeah, it makes
whatever
sense.
The bait may be.
So, Mr. Stephen Barday, glad the king could grace us with his presence. Okay. So we are glad that you took the time out of your busy schedule from your saltwater fishing and all your expeditions to join us tonight. And I love you, Stephen. You know that. There was no global warming on Carter's today in that wind. So were you fishing with him today on Carter's, or he just went? Yeah, I could say the guy. I snuck out of the shop a little early last night to kind of hunt for a couple hours. And you could tell when that wind was coming in, it was brisk. And then this morning it's cold. So I can see that. One thing I did forget, guys, and I apologize for this. It popped into my mind. When I was telling you about the Fishers of Hope tournament, they also paid for a slot for an entry fee for the Toys for Tots tournament. And some of you guys have already done this, but if this is for anybody that has not pre-registered already. If you're interested, you can send me your name via messenger, either on Fish North Georgia or Danny Pruitt on Facebook, and enter your name. And what we're going to do next Tuesday night is we're going to draw the name, and whoever we draw, you get to fish the Toys for Tots for free, courtesy of Fishers of Hope. So I apologize for forgetting that, and there's so much to remember at the start of one of these things. And also, Big Al, you guys see this this little package that was delivered from Big Al of the National Professional Fishing League. We're going to open this thing up a little bit. All I know is I don't know what to expect out of it, but if you guys know Big Al, he is the guy that goes, there's the boom when they weigh in. And also generally he gives us our ladies of the past. How do we want to phrase that? Hot ladies of the 80s. Does that sound right, Tim?
That sounds good.
That sounds good. So I bet you it might have something to do with that. We'll see that. So, Cody Campbell fishing. I was trying to fish out of my 12-foot John boat in 25 to 30 mile an hour gusts yesterday. It got a little bit sketchy. You think?
He's a brave man.
You think? Hey, but you know what? You can't catch him if you ain't out there. So good for you. Bill Coleman Jones wants to know, when do you expect the jerk bait to become a key factor? He probably was watching the other night when we were supposed to be talking about jerk baits, and we didn't talk about them until like the last 15 minutes. So jerk bait bite, when is it going to turn on?
Well, I would say it's been on a little bit, and I've got it by good authority, really, that it was pretty good today out there in the wind.
Was that from Barday?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay, you said authority. I just want
He's
to know.
been fishing for slabs. Barday has.
Oh, he's crappy fishing.
Yeah, he was on tuna, I think, the other day.
There's some good ones in there. All right, so your authority says it's on.
I mean, really, I only look for the good conditions, and I like for there to be a pretty good chop up to a wind going, and there's still fish shallow, and gosh, you can catch fish on a jerk bait, on into the winter.
Yeah. Do you like throwing a jerk bait?
I love a jerk bait. I have to say I'll throw it in the fall, and I've thrown it all summer actually, but I really like the pre-spawn, honestly, the best. I like, late January, February, early March. I love the jerk bait bite then, and that's when I do the best. Of course, you can't catch them on it if you're not fishing it, but that's when I look to do that. That's old school
right
thinking, I guess, but pretty much nowadays everybody knows jerk bait's a year-round bait. It's a favorite of the forward-facing Sonar guys, and you can catch them year-round for sure. But since I'm not fishing shallow that much right now, I haven't been fishing it a lot.
All right, let me ask you a question because this is for me. I have zero confidence in a jerkbait. Everybody knows that it comes into. I know it's a fantastic bait, but for some reason, I don't have the confidence in it, and probably don't throw it enough. If I'm being honest, probably don't throw it enough. For somebody that has zero confidence in it, and I want to commit to a jerkbait right now, and for maybe the next few weeks, give me a couple locations, something to target.
Well, right now, if I'm looking to throw a jerkbait, I want to look at some of the long flat points. If you use forward facing sonar, you want to use that to look at depths and areas that have fish in them and target them, throw at them, and use that jerkbait. But you got to have the right conditions. This time of year, I like for it to be cloudy and overcast and some wind.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't catch them in the sun, but I think more of in the pre-spawn, the sunny days, as fish just begin to move up on those long flat points and get up into that 15-foot range, 12-foot, and a little shallower, you can throw that jerkbait up there and get bit pretty good on those warm, sunny February days.
Okay. I just need to throw it, right? Just get out there and throw it.
when the conditions aren't right and they're really not on that bait, you can throw that thing to your blue in the face and you're probably not going to have great success.
Yeah.
But
that sounds about right with me. Let's see. We're going to do Tom's question. And then since Big Al's here, we'll open up his little gift. Actually, there's a question not above him. Going up above Tom. Keep on going up. Austin Lanier right there. Let's pull that one up. When chasing and targeting these spots that are chasing the bait, what do you find draws them out and bites the best? An underspin or a minnow bait possibly?
Both of those. I think the death of the boot-tail swim bait is over-exaggerated a little bit. I know the straight-tail minnows are the rage, and that is great for forward-facing sonar and getting out on the lake and catching those fish that we never used to fish for and so forth. But around those bait balls and when fish are on bottom, the little small finesse swim baits are still a factor. I mean, we've been catching a lot on them, and also a spoon. I mean, you can use a flutter spoon, but by this time of the year, I'm using a jigging spoon. And whereas used to be before forward-facing sonar, we were always getting over the fish with 2D sonar and dropping it down and getting right on top of them, and you could still do that. But more and more, I like to get out in these ditches and other areas where there's bait or fish on the bottom and cast that spoon out and work it like you would a blade bait kind of. A blade bait will work, and I catch some on a blade bait, but it seems like I can catch more on a jigging spoon, casting it out and hopping it back to the boat.
Okay.
Those are the best ways, I think.
Gotcha.
To target those fish.
All right. Tom Errico. Let's pull that one up. You guys, hey, bring them questions. You make my job easy when you guys ask all the questions. What do you think? Fish school and bait schools sitting closer to the bottom are catchable then? Later in the day, better catchable schools are closer to the surface when looking with sonar. Let me read that whole question again because I think I absolutely murdered it. What do you think? Fish school and bait schools sitting closer to the bottom are catchable. Then later in the day, better catchable schools are closer to the surface when looking with the sonar.
Well, my experience is this, and I've spent a lot of time over the last few decades waiting on late September and October to get here where I could change from summer tactics to looking at bait. What I find on the typical day, non-rainy day, a normal day where it's sunny, is in the mornings, especially early on in the season, you'll see a lot of bait scattered, and I call that bait kind of fragmented. It's not in tight balls or whatever. It's just kind of, you see a lot of bait and it's just spread out. What happens every day and it's just predictable. And I tell a lot of the people on the trips, here's what it is, and here's what should happen, and here's what we're going to see. And almost always it does. Maybe not every time, but most of the time. As we start getting later morning, 11, then 12 and 1, that bait that's kind of spread out and scattered, it begins to group up in tighter balls. I don't know, it becomes a better target. And normally, a lot of times that fish will move up higher in the water column, and it's easy to see the bait in those tight balls, and you can see the schools of little wolf packs of schools around them, and the bait just gets more, or the bite gets more active, and where we may start slow in the morning, it starts getting better and better, and when the sun's the highest, that's when the bait's the most visible and in the biggest groups,
Mm-hmm.
and the bite's just better as it goes on into the afternoon. Now I can say, that's the way it's been in recent weeks, but I have gone out some mornings and in some locations found some good bait balls that I could immediately begin catching fish on. But typically that's the trend. As the sun gets higher, the bait tightens up into bigger groups. It gets higher in the water column many times, and the bite gets better. That's the typical day for fishing bait, whether it's with a swim bait, a jigging spoon, or a blade bait, or an underspin.
Okay.
Anything like that.
Absolutely. I got that. All right. Now, since we got Big Al on, let's go ahead, Tim, and we're going to do this. We're going to open this up. Now, Kevin has not seen this, so that guys don't know what's going on. But Big Al a couple weeks ago was cleaning out his closet. And then I got a text message that said, hey, in a couple of weeks, a gift is going to show up at Fish North Georgia. So we got the gift. Now, I can tell you by the base of the package, it's probably a poster. So I imagine, and I'd like to know, Big Al, if this was one that was in your room growing up as a young, impressionable teenage boy. And I hope there's nothing on it. There's no DNA on it or anything like that, if we're being honest. All right. Hey, Tony, come up here. We're going to unroll this. You might have to go to the wide shot. You grab one corner and I'll grab the rest. I think that's you got the bottom. You hold it, pull it towards you. All right. Our hot lady, I imagine.
Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, grab that corner up there up top. Look at that right there. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's signed in the corner. There's the boom, Big Al. Now, you two old timers, what do you think about this woman right here?
That was a 10.
That's a 10?
All day long.
All day, every day, a 10?
Definitely a 10.
12. So you guys can see that. Woo!
If it's a 12, it's a wall mount.
I'll let you roll that back up.
See, my wife, when we were dating, she had that Farrah Fawcett hairdo, and
woo, I bet she was hot then. So there you go. Good for you, Big Al. Listen, hey, buddy, thank you very much. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to find a frame, and I'm going to get it framed up. Now, I might have to keep that on the back corner of the shop because I got some mamas coming in here with their sons and their kids, and I probably can't have that out because while it's not naked, it's revealing a little bit.
They see that stuff at school.
I know they do, but they don't see it here. Keep that crap at school. Big Al, thank you very much. That actually means more than you know right there. So definitely appreciate that. And he signed it. So now I've got a signed Big Al, Farrah Fawcett. But I would like to know, Big Al, was that one of your originals that you had growing up? Because then it means even so much more. And then my next question is, what the hell did you do keeping that thing for so long? Man wants to know right there. So, Fred Ashcroft, I think you know who the woman of the night is with that right there.
Fred's question was answered.
It was what?
Did that answer your question, Fred?
Yeah,
Because he asked that, and I was like, I'm not going to say anything because if he's watching, you're fixing to find out.
You are fixing to find out. Farrah Fawcett, Charlie's Angels back in the day. Was she the hottest angel?
Absolutely.
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 The blonde hair, is that what did it? Or was it just the rest of the package?
Total package.
The total package. All right, Bill, I know I'm not going to put you on the spot like that. I can do that to Kevin. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. Big Al
I
says
like them all, though.
you liked them all. I don't blame you. He said I went through 7 of them. I want to know why you went through 7 of them right there.
Al, I wish I still had mine. I had that exact poster
I think
in the mid '80s hanging in my room.
I had that when I had Kathy Ireland. Kathy Ireland was on the back of the door so I could stare at her at night. Woo!
All right, let's get back to the show.
The life of a teenage boy. Going back up. Kathy Ireland was like, yeah. Could not wait for the Sports Illustrated edition to come out every year right back then. Okay, how about this? Appreciate it, Big Al. Thank you very much. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate you a lot. There was a question. Fred asked, let's see. Yeah, we're back to Jason Jones. Because Bill and I did a sit-down pre-recorded conversation, and we talked about nighttime bass fishing. And, of course, anytime we talk about that here, the big Colorado spinnerbait bite, we talk about that. But what he wants to know is that approach seasonal? Can you do that, or is that only a summertime pattern?
It's really only a summertime pattern for me. Now, I used to try to make it work at different times, and I've caught fish on Tennessee River lakes in the summer on big spinnerbaits in the daytime and some other times of the year on big spinnerbaits, but I haven't gotten that big spinnerbait fishing it deep out on structure to work for me in the winter ever. And maybe I gave up on it too quickly, but that's been quite a while, but that's not a player for me for sure.
What about a regular spinnerbait like a mini me or something burning it?
Well,
that's a little bit different.
Right now, if you got some wind in the equation, overcast, wind, it might not even have to be that overcast, but I like it to be overcast, even some rain, a low ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
You got some wind blowing, you can burn that thing
just
across
nasty
those
weather.
shallow points and so
like
forth before it gets too cold.
Right.
But yeah, I've caught them a lot of days doing that, reeling it as fast as you can without breaking the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I got you. I know Fred Ashcraft had a question about how, if you're not in the area, you're not going to get the fish to Toys for Tots. How can you help out as well? Really, the only thing I know is if you want to donate money, reach out to me, and I can give you a Venmo, and I can either go buy some toys for you, or I can give the Hall County Toys for Tots the money directly. So that would be about the best. But another thing you could do is share it around. That's nothing. Tell everybody what we're trying to do. Get the word out, and like all you Allatoona guys that are watching tonight, because Bill's on. Come to Lanier and fish with us. All right, come to Lanier and fish with us. You guys had one, but come over here with us and play with some of these big spotted bass. But anyway, we just want everybody to come. So, where are we at? Okay, Cody Campbell fishing. Have you guys found any place in your fishing for a tailspin? Tailspin don't get talked a lot. I mean, we talk about it occasionally, but not very often.
Yeah, a tailspin kind of lost favor for a long time, but I'll tell you, I guess I think it's Mega Bass. They came out with a tail spinner called a Daracoop, and it's a pretty good bait, and you can catch them on it. I've got a friend works with Fishco. His bait is a Daracoop, and wherever we fish, he's throwing that thing, and he's normally catching something.
Yeah.
In fact, I was at Chickamauga 2 or 3 years ago fishing in a spring in the creek, and I was throwing one and caught a 7.5 pounder out of it.
Really?
Underspin. I used to catch them at West Point out on road beds in the summer on an underspin. But I will say I haven't used it a lot. In fact, Chuck Thrasher, he's got some underspin or some tail spinners, and I've been meaning to try some of those out on those deep fish. I just haven't, but I'm sure it'll work to some degree.
It makes sense. Ron Swinford, our buddy from over Rome over there. Hey, Bill, during the day in the winter, if you get one of those cool, clear, almost windless days, is that when you go to the slower bottom baits?
Absolutely. Now, if I'm around bait fish or something, and the swim baits and the minnows and jigging spoon, I can still catch them sometimes pretty good on that, even if it's not very much wind. But more times than not, when you have those slick conditions, you wind up having to go to bottom and dragging, fishing the drop off, fishing the little edges of the creek channels and points, and getting down on bottom with a jig or a Ned rig or a shaky head.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what's called for when you draw that kind of day, and they're not going to hit moving baits much. And that's absolutely what you got to do.
Okay, I got you. Big Al says he's pleading the fifth on the reasons why he went through 7 of them, which is basically 5 fingers. I get it. Coleman Jones. That's what it means, pleading the fifth. It all adds up.
Is that experience or what?
Oh, hey, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kathy Ireland.
I
Tell
hear
you, I dated her for like 4 years in high school. We had a great relationship.
I bet you did.
And she didn't talk or anything. It was the best. She didn't tell me what to do or nothing.
You knew what to do.
We got to get away from that. We'll get in trouble. Coleman Jones. Bill, what are some of your favorite drop shot winter baits?
I'll use a finesse worm. I use some of the Fishco baits. The new radar shad will be another one.
You throw that on a drop
straight
shot?
out. Yeah.
Do you really? Because
Yeah.
I've thrown it on a ball head jig and I really like it. You use it on a drop shot.
Yeah. And then I like some smaller, more, I guess, really ultra finesse baits.
You've always liked that ultra finesse stuff, ain't you?
For that drop shot.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the robo worms and their colors are really good. I like some of the little minnow baits that are pretty small. I mean, I learned a long time ago, even a tiny fluke.
The little bitty
little
one.
bitty one.
Yeah.
That's a deadly drop shot bait, or used to be. I haven't used it in a long time, but
I'm sure it still would be.
when
It
they're
still
on a drop
works.
shot,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that'll work, but I like those natural colors and those bait fish minnow colors. Like Berkeley had this little minnow with all this glitter on it. They still make it. That's a great drop shot bait. And one thing that's not, I don't see much about now that really paid dividends for me at times was to actually rig a drop shot bait wacky style.
Really?
Just hook it right in the middle. There are times when I've seen it, the bite not be that good, and you put something like a small Cinco or a lot of different, almost any worm, but you hook it in the middle and drop it down there and shake it a little bit. Man,
Just something different.
Yeah. But I have a feeling there's a lot of people that do that don't talk about it really.
I got that. I like, let's see. Oh, one thing, Jonathan Farmer, and guys, you know, he's one of your guys' favorite guests when he comes on there. Here was an interesting drop shot bait, taking a trout streamer and having it, tying it, you know, where that streamer is just sitting out there and them little feathers are just sitting there undulating, is what he likes to say and everything. I tried that one time in a tournament, didn't get bit on it, but I know it looked good. So I guess it's just try till you find it. That's kind of the reason why you went with the wacky every once in a while. Let's just try something. So Ron wants to, Fred Ashcraft says, okay, thanks. I'll do both. Hey, appreciate you, bud. Yeah, just get in touch with me and we'll figure it all out. Ron Swinford, how much do you try to fish in the wind in the winter? I find when we fish the windy areas they fish the windy areas almost too much in the colder months. So wintertime, really cold, it's a windy day, you kind of get in a pocket and avoid it, or are you out there on the main lake right in it?
It depends. It depends on a lot of things really, but the main thing, I mean, if it is blowing 20 miles an hour, I'll try to get out of the brunt of it. Now I might try to fish a little bit, a moving bait fast, but you know, it's gonna boat controls going to become a thing. And if it's blowing too much, it's going to make it pretty difficult to do. But I know we got spot lock. You can always go to the back of the boat. And I have caught them a few times like that. And I like that wind to be blowing, but sometimes I might want to get to the edge of it. One of the fellows here tonight was talking about fishing today and fishing a jerkbait, and he was talking about off the side of these points where it almost is like an eddy area out of the wind. I found a lot of times when you kind of get out of the wind, but you're getting to the edge of those really windy where it's just barely got a break,
right,
that those become really good areas. I guess an eddy describes it pretty good.
It does describe
kinda.
it. Yeah.
But that's a good place to be, depending on, if you're in the wind, you're going to have to probably be throwing a moving bait, a spinnerbait, a chatterbait, or a jerkbait, something that you can work it pretty fast. I mean, worm fishing is pretty tough when the wind's really blowing. But it all depends. If it's just a good moderate wind, I've gotten on points and catch them on moving baits pretty good. But if it's too strong, I'll try to mitigate it just a little bit. I think if you just try to get out of it for your own comfort, you might not be doing
That's
the
right.
most that you could.
That's right. King of Bass. If I had to fight a bear or fish against Mr. Bill in a tournament, I'd fight the damn bear. Mr. Bill, King of Allatoona, right there. Hey, listen, and listen, and I feel that way. He's going to sit there and say, "I know." We had that whole talk about humility and all that. So he's like, "I don't want people thinking that, but we all know better."
That wouldn't be a good move, is all I could say.
Yeah, listen at you right there. Yeah, don't fight the bear. So,
no.
What's a good color worm to throw on a drop shot or shaky head? Like, give me the juice. What's your favorite color worm?
Well, it runs. Sometimes I want to try a bait fish color.
Yeah.
More times than not, I'm stuck on. I'm kind of a green pumpkin or natural browns, and so forth. But I can tell you, Morning Dawn, which is not natural at all,
doesn't look like
deadly bait for the drop shot.
Yeah.
So if you ask me my favorite, not to be a smart aleck, I'd say the one they're biting, but
that's true.
I typically start with the natural colors and
work
my way to other things. Although, I've seen it when Morning Dawn was just lights out.
We've had that conversation in the shop many, many, many times.
Many times.
What in the hell in the water looks pink and like a Morning Dawn worm? Probably the same thing for the methylate and the bubble gum. We've had that conversation, but it works.
Yeah,
it just works.
It does.
Actually, it works really good on Chickamauga. I had several guys when I fished that tournament. They said, "So what do I throw up there? I've never been up there. Just put you a Morning Dawn drop shot on." It worked. I don't know why. I can't explain it. How long will targeting bait balls work through the winter? Brandon Howell would like to know. Appreciate you joining us tonight, Brandon.
I think it'll work all winter as long as you can find bait balls and find them grouped up. But what I find a lot of years is it's really good early fall into November, maybe a little into December, but a lot of times I don't find quite as much bait, especially stacked up in the ditches and so forth at Allatoona. And as it gets pretty cold into the dead of winter, sometimes I actually do better moving off that pattern and going more to the creek ledges, points, and more to drop shots, Ned rigs, shaky heads, even a jig. But now the fact is you can catch fish around bait anytime bait's grouped up, potentially.
Right.
So if I can catch them around it, it's great. But a lot of times that bait can disappear on you on certain days, and you just scratch your head at where where it is, and you got to go to something else.
Yeah. Well, so like on Lanier, we got timber. We got that timber that leads up and then up into these pockets and everything. And a lot of guys have been on the show and that we fish, we'll talk about those spots will push that bait up into the back of a creek or back of a pocket. And then as the sun comes up, they kind of work their way back to the timber. So they either stay in the ditch or they're working back to the timber. On Allatoona, you guys don't have timber. So what are the bass and the bait relating to in these pockets?
Mostly the bottom of the channel.
Just the bottom. There's not that much structure there.
No, I mean, now you can find some fish around brush piles or a stump or some bit of cover down there, but I consider that kind of different. When it comes to winter fishing, just a brief synopsis, if I go to Allatoona in the wintertime, say haven't been on the water and I go, the first thing I'm going to do in the wintertime is where I'm planning to fish. Is the water muddy or is the water clear?
Okay.
That's the main division of what I need to see before I decide what I'm going to do.
Right.
If the lake I realize even if the lake is clear down in the lower parts of the lake, I can go up river or up Allatoona.
You like stained water.
Find stained water.
Yeah.
But the main division between that is if it's clear and wherever it is, if I'm down in the main part of the lake and it's clear, I'm going to look for bait and or fish on structure deeper, more or less.
Right.
Now, if I go up or the whole lake gets muddy, I'm going to fish probably 12 feet or less all day. And I'm going to fish bait. That's where, for me, the crankbait, the rock crawler comes into play.
Okay.
Jigs, rock crawlers. Some people use an Alabama rig, even if it's stained up. Sometimes a spinnerbait, although when it gets to the dead of winter, I don't catch a lot on spinnerbait, but I'm sure others do catch some on it.
Yeah.
Square bill, but I like the smaller crankbaits, and I'm going to target that 12 feet or less around rocks, stumps, brush, on flats, on the edge of points.
Yeah.
So really, when we talk about winter, the first thing I want to generally know is the water stained, muddy, or is it clear?
Yeah.
And then that's going to
determine
what I do.
I know in our past conversations, you love stained water.
I do.
And I was going to bring that up at some point, but you got it right in there, and I didn't even have to ask that question. So that was perfect. Kevin, you're on Allatoona all the time, listening to what he said. First of all, do you fish in the wintertime a lot over there?
Not a lot. No.
Not a lot.
Nope.
Not a lot.
Can't get the boat in there without. Now you can over at
Gatewood,
and you can, I think, at
because they draw the thing down.
They draw it down 17 feet where they extended the ramp. Where's that at too?
Blockhouse.
Blockhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, blockhouse.
That's a shame that on a lake like that, there's only 2 ramps really that are good in the wintertime. Corps of Engineers, you got to do better. You guys got to do better.
And I think as far as parking, both Victoria and Gulch are probably better than Gatewood and Blockhouse for the number of boats you can put in.
You guys do better. You guys got to do better right there. So we pay a lot of money in taxes and licensing fees. Get these guys places, get their boat in the water. Joe Bennett, let's pull up Joe. And if you're watching from the Army Corps of Engineers, I love you. I'm just playing. Bill, will the blueback stay in the upper water column during the winter, or will they be deep? And I think you were hitting on that a little bit earlier. Just you were talking about how in the morning they're kind of stratified out, kind of spread out, and then they ball up a little bit. When they ball up, do they come up? Are they coming up in the water column when they ball up during the day?
A lot of times they will, especially if it's a good warm day. They'll get even to the surface,
Yeah. Okay. Doc Holliday, remember Tom Mann's Little George?
Absolutely.
That's just how good the conversation's been. We talked about that 5 minutes ago. We're just getting to that in the comments.
Well, Joe, he was asking about the blueback in the upper water column.
Yeah.
Or during the winter, will they be deep? Well, they can be. I think they will go deep when it's cold and so forth, but there'll be warm days in the winter where they can be up and even in the dead of winter in January, I've been on lakes where stripers and hybrids are blowing up on bait on the surface.
Yeah.
And
bound to be some spots in there with them, right?
Yeah, but they can do both, just depending on the weather and the watercolor. They don't. Those bluebacks don't like that stained water too much, I don't think.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Tom Erico's talking in his comment about fishing the tailspin. Seems like a lot of guys still fish it. He said, great fishermen are best because he fishes the tailspin. So Aaron Martin used the used to drop shot those wacky rigged worms a lot. He would even adjust the hook position for a little bit different action, kind of like somebody can do with a Nico. Morning Dawn or Margarita Mutilator are both killer options from the RoboWorm. I second the Margarita Mutilator.
Mm-hmm.
I have used that. That is an absolute killer color worm right there. So Zoom motor oil color was awesome, just regular motor oil. That's a color that used to be really, really popular that don't get talked about a lot. Every once in a while, I'll have some guys come in, can you order me the motor oil and all that? And they do seem to be a little bit of the older generation that uses that motor oil. So back in the day. Huddy the Goat. That's a name I have not seen before. If you guys have seen it, y'all let me know. But appreciate you joining us tonight. That's a great name. My grandson Hudson will be back fishing after having 2 broken arms at the same time. Holy Toledo right there. He still talks about our summer trip. Okay, so you must have took them out at some point.
Yes, sir.
So there you go. Rest in peace to the greatest Allatoona fishing partner, Big John Dunlap. So absolutely there. So that's still pretty cool. When he's talking about taking grandsons and kids out and making memories, and they're still talking about that. So good for you on that, 100%. Austin Lanier, right there at the top. When guys, keep them coming. This is great. When fishing deep, when is fishing a jigging spoon better than a drop shot, and vice versa? When is a drop shot better than a jigging spoon?
Well, gosh, a drop shot is a killer technique, and there's a lot of uses and a lot of times to use that. But I kind of think about spoon fishing more in a power fishing way, even though, and I go to that first because you can mop them up quick on a jigging spoon.
I'm going to do that this year. I don't throw it often enough.
I mean, when they're on it, the other day, there was fish not around bait laying in the bottom of a ditch, and I caught 5 or 6 on 5 or 6 casts, just boom, boom, boom on that jigging spoon.
So you're casting it? Cast
it out.
Get it on the bottom.
Just like you would work a blade bait. You cast that thing out. I pop that rod. When I say pop it up, I just raise it up, let it go flutter back down, take the slack up.
When it flutters down, are you letting it come back and hitting the bottom again?
Yeah, I want it to always go back.
Hopping up. So, okay.
What's your minimum depth for throwing the jigging spoon?
There ain't no minimum. Well,
would you throw it in 5 foot of water, like up a creek, and then work it back? Are you talking?
I'm normally
10, 12 feet
on a jigging spoon. Now, this is not that doesn't mean you can't. I have caught fish in 12 feet on a spoon and so forth, but really, generally, I want it to be 20 feet or deeper.
So a deep ditch.
And the lakes I fish, Carter's, Allatoona,
Carter's, everything's deep. Carter's is a different kind of deep.
And I want it to be, it just seems like in really clear water, I've had a lot better luck when it gets 20 feet or over with that spoon, but I've caught them in 100 feet. So
yeah, that makes sense. So our buddy cameraman Cletus, good luck on your date this weekend. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I hope you have the time of your life, and I'll fill the guys in about that later. When you find yourself fishing and nothing's working, what is the thought process to get yourself back into the game and not get spun out? And I think this is more important really for tournament guys. Nothing's working. How do you
Is he asking about fishing or his date?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you
I'm
what.
just wondering.
It really needs to be about his date because he's going into uncharted territory, boys.
I'm about to text him and find out.
You need to text him and find out. But let's just say in a tournament situation, nothing's working. What do you do?
Well, sometimes if I can't do anything else, I change geography. if I'm stuck on fishing in the mid lake area and I can't get anything to work, and I'm going to change locations. If I'm still convinced the pattern or the technique I'm using is going to work, I'm just going to change total locations. But really, that's when finesse fishing comes into play. That's why a shaky head and a Ned rig. When you're not, especially if you've been fishing moving baits or something, if you'll go and bear down and slow down and finesse fish, you got to catch something.
Yeah.
I mean,
so how do you keep your confidence up though? Like to not mentally just go, this day sucks.
Well, I guess that's a $64 question, but you got to have a mentality when you're tournament fishing. You got to have a positive mentality, and I guess I've kidded myself into this, but I always think it's about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, it might not have.
Right,
but
yeah.
I'm always convinced that it's about to happen. Even if I've gone 6 hours without a bite, I think I'm about to outlast them. I'm going to overpower them. I've got an outboard motor on the back of my boat, and I can be to the other end of this lake, and I can put it before fish that haven't seen it today. And I just have to, I have to believe it's going to happen. Now, I've had times when it didn't happen, and I have to go home and lick my wounds, but you got to have that positive mental attitude, and you can't let that get in your head.
So Cletus, that was for you and your date. Have that positive mental attitude and don't let it get in your head right there.
And remember, the Plenty of Fish app is not a fishing app, Clint.
Listen, I'm just going to tell you, I am looking forward to this story is all I got to tell you next week when I see him. Go on up real quick to the one right above Isaac Reynolds in that comment. Go right above that. What we're going to do is right after I read this comment, Kevin, go ahead and get your question of the week out. Get it ready. Our Serve IT question of the week. But I want to read this comment. They named Payne Campground after Bill. He won't admit it, but it's true. Don't let him tell you any different. Payne Campground.
I'm sure it was named after a Payne, a lot greater than
Yeah, listen at you. All right, guys. So right now, and you guys keep your questions coming because you're getting some good juice tonight. You're getting some good stuff. But it's time for the Serve IT question of the week. And let me tell you a little bit about Serve IT. They offer fully managed IT services, not surfaces, services, covering all of your company's needs with outstanding customer service. If your company is looking for a total 100% IT solution, you got one of those companies, Serve IT is the company for you. Alan Brooks, and you guys know him. I've been there. I've seen their processes. It's great. But also, one of the reasons why they wanted to sponsor our show is they're looking for the right individuals, bright young minds, go-getters. If you're interested in learning the IT industry, they're looking for you. And he really has a heart for outdoorsmen, fishermen. If you're bright, you're smart, you might not even have to know anything about IT. They will walk you through it. And if you think you're a good candidate for that, go to Serve IT, go to careers. I believe it's on their website. I saw it. Or contact Serve IT and go talk to them about it. It might just be the job for you. And I can tell you it's an industry we're going to need for a long, long time. So we appreciate Serve IT sponsoring the question of the night. Now, how many answers has this thing got?
Heck, he's still reading it.
One answer.
One
really.
answer. Okay, now let's go ahead and give the disclaimer.
The disclaimer is if you use AI, you'll get the wrong answer on this.
Okay, because he's ran it through AI and it comes up wrong, but he's done the math. He has done the math. So what you're going to win? I got a package of Lanier Bait swimmers. Lanier Bait, one of their fruity worms, their finesse worms, and right behind me is a Spro shirt that was given to us by Spro. Now listen, I ain't got but a couple of sizes left, so 2X or extra large. If you're bigger than that, you can just wear it for like a real tight swimsuit underlayer or something like that. If it's too big, wear it to bed. I don't care. But you're going to get one of these things right here, and I'm going to ship it to you. So answer the question. First one in the comment section that has the right answer wins this. So, but you got to listen to this question very carefully. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Let's go.
What was the total accumulated points of the first 3 Super Bowl games minus the points scored by extra point or field goal during those 3 games?
Read that baby again.
What was the total accumulated points of the first 3 Super Bowl games minus the points scored by either an extra point or field goal during those 3 games? So what you're going to need to do, and to help you out, is you've got to add up the total number of points minus the points that were scored by either an extra point or a field goal.
And there was no 2-point conversions.
There was no 2-point conversions.
That you really changed it up tonight going with the football thing. I like it. I like it. So anyway, go ahead and scroll down to the comments because I know you got to get down to the bottom. So we'll get back to the questions and see. 9 and 44 is not it. Coleman in the area. You're in the ballpark. And and listen, AI is not going to help you on this. You guys got to do some math tonight. All right. And apparently, by the looks of it, some of you can't. Think about this, Isaac Reynolds. 13, you got to add 3 Super Bowls, the total scores together. So keep it on that while I talk. We'll go back to the questions that were up there. I'll get back there. Y'all keep it up. Some of you are close. I'm just going to put it that way. So while they're looking, while they're watching, Bill, what's your favorite way to fish in the wintertime? Just your favorite. If you were just out fun fishing.
Probably the last couple of years, it's been a Ned rig.
You know, people, they crap on the Ned rig.
I know it. When that came out, I've got some friends. When it first came out, they had that, and I said, I'm not fishing with that stupid looking thing. I've got plenty of baits that'll catch those fish, and every time I pull it out and use it when they're with me, I have to eat crow. Mm-hmm. I've eaten a lot.
Barday likes the Ned rig.
He's a master at it.
Which is funny. It's just like I always find that there we go.
No.
Ain't we got one of those there?
No. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do. Cameraman Cletus. We do now.
Cameraman Cletus. So that's because he figured out it was in the 70s and just put every single one of them. So.
He did. He
didn't need
They're firing off stuff. I click on one and another one pops up.
Process of elimination. So the right answer, according to Kevin's math. According to Kevin's math, and we're talking, he's so old he probably used an abacus to do it.
There was 115 total points, and there was 37 points scored either by the extra point in the field goal. And if you minus that from 115, it gives you 78.
There you go. So 78 is the answer. So, which is about the age of the woman he's going to go out with. So anyway, I'm screwing with you, dog, right there. So anyway, so there you go. All right. Cameraman Cletus, he'll pick up his stuff. So we got to, you know what we're going to have to do, though? We're going to have to eliminate him. You know why? Because you get into that, you hear when on the radio when they do this thing, and they always say employees of or associated with 96 Rock are not eligible for this contest.
For a period of time.
But not, if you're employed by it, you can't win from your own company. He's not technically employed by us, but he does help out on the Tuesday night. So Clint,
folks, we've actually inadvertently eliminated him from taking your prizes. He just doesn't know it yet.
So Clint, that's the last one you can win, dog, right there. Last one. All right, look at that, but 52 answers, and he had 47 of them. So anyway, all right. So
there's some comments or questions somewhere. I'll get to them.
Yeah, you find them back. Yeah, I saw them. They're way back up there. That's because the conversation's good and flowing. He's answering the questions, and we might not get your question tonight, but we're going to do our best. So I will say that. Okay, so right here, I think you're getting close. So Tony Watkins, come up to Notley. You have to airlift your boat in the water because TVA Lake, they drain it down for sure. There we go. Austin, going to Isaac Reynolds.
I think that's where we left.
Isaac Reynolds. There you go. He's probably sitting there at his house going, dude, you said you'd get me right there. So what's a good thing to throw when it's dead calm and they won't even eat a worm when the sun is high? I'd say put the boat on the trailer. Go eat.
Go to another lake. But
yeah,
now if it's dead calm and they're not wanting to bite, you got to drag a worm or a Ned rig or a drop shot around some cover.
And go slow. I remember the very first time you and I ever talked, you said, throw it, and if you think you're going slow, slow down. And that's probably the perfect And if they ain't hitting, they just ain't hitting that day.
Yeah,
They ain't
but-
gonna hit that.
You can almost always, you just there's fish going to bite somewhere.
That's right. Positive mental attitude.
You know what he just said was, you think about it with tournament fishing, and you come in and you've been skunked. Somebody always has a bag.
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
So it's I got a big motor. I'm gonna go find some place where they're biting.
Yeah. You can find a fish.
Right.
Everybody comes in with 8, and that one guy comes in with 17, especially the cat down on West Point.
I'm the 8-pound guy.
Huh?
I'm the 8-pound guy.
I had to throw that in there for you,
That's what
Tony.
we caught it.
I had to throw that in there. Guys, public service announcement. Do not cheat in bass tournaments. With social media this day,
Here goes
you are just, this is my one thing.
You will get
the
roasted.
rabbit hole coming.
Even if you were innocent, you got to go through a week of absolutely having your life destroyed. Don't cheat in a bass tournament. Austin Leroy, I love that name, Leroy, right there. Are there any differing characteristics in finding largemouth versus spots when ditch fishing, or are they going to mingle more or less in the ditch bait? I will say on Lanier, 90%. It seems to me the majority of the fish we catch in the ditches, like in the true center of the ditches, are spots. You can catch some largemouth, but I feel like largemouth on Lanier are they're not dead in the ditch. They might be up the bank on the side or near the dock still. I mean, is that your experience?
Well, gosh, I go for long times without catching a largemouth, but I think largemouth, even though I've caught them deep, I've caught them in the summer in brush piles 20 feet deep, but in general, I think your largemouth are going to be shallower.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're more pocket oriented and bank cover oriented, even when it's cold.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say, yeah, so there's Barday's talk. 850, he put that comment up. It's we've been going, what is it, 9-10 or something like that. And we're just now getting to it. Yeah, stained water is your friend. And I know Bill loves stained water. We've had so many conversations. It's always about stained water.
It's his friend, too.
It is his friend. And I'm friends with him because he's a big dude. I was smart. I make friends with all the big ones. Christopher Henry, can we ship toys to your shop? Absolutely. I do have a box here. Tim, will you type in this address for me real quick? You got Fish, North Georgia, which everybody should know, but the address is 11262 Highway 53. There it is. Marble Hill. That's 2 words. Georgia. 30148. So if you can get them here in time before the December 7th tournament, I will be glad to put them in the box right here. And if you're in the area and you can't fish the tournament and you want to donate some toys, bring them on up here. We'll put them in the box. I'll make sure the kids get them. Let's see. We got that question. We're trying to play catch up. That question of the night always throws us for a little loop sometimes. What jigging spoons do you like? Jonathan McLean wants to know.
I like the Flex-It spoon.
Yeah.
I hadn't used in several years, but I dug a few out from my
Collection.
bunch of tackle I've got and been using them lately. They've been working great, but I like a War Eagle. I like the little built-in swivel on the War Eagle.
Right.
And, but I've put little swivels on my Flex-It spoons. I think Flex-It, I think they're out of business or whatever.
I haven't even looked for one in forever.
I think I see some on eBay for a lot more than what they used to.
Yes,
cost,
sir.
But, that's a great spoon. It's still a good spoon, but I mostly use the War Eagle.
Well, the very next question is, what's your rod, reel, and line setup for the jigging spoon? What are you throwing it on?
It's kind of funny. I've got too many rods and whatever, but I've got to where I've just been using my jerkbait rods with 12-pound line for my jigging spoon rod.
Okay.
Let it serve a little
Dual purpose.
double duty there.
Okay.
You don't need much. I mean, you don't want a stiff rod. I mean, you could even do it on a cranking rod. In fact, one of my buddies has got a 845 crankbait rod, Loomis. He said that's the best spoon rod I've ever had. But
Got plenty of tip.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. She's twice my age. Talk about changing geography. That's what I told you guys. He's dating. He's going out with an older woman this weekend.
If he survives.
Huh?
If he survives.
If he survives.
He's in the wildlife, cougar.
He's got him a cougar.
Yes, he does.
He's got him a cougar.
Yep.
I mean, a legit cougar.
He's always like that wildlife.
He has no idea what he's about to get in store for. Crazy and experienced, because they're all crazy. So, Bill, what color and weight jigging spoon do you like in the early winter months?
I use a half ounce silver when it's sunny. I like the 6/10, the one we were just talking about, the Flex It, and I'll use a 3/4 if it's if I'm too impatient to wait for the half ounce to get to the bottom.
Yeah, right.
Silver's my color. If it's really cloudy or even rainy, I might like a gold. And if the water's got a little stain in it, I like white.
Like white. There you go. Derek O wants to know, do you look for areas protected from north wind or no concern about that?
Not concerned. I want to, if the wind's blowing, I'm going to try to take advantage of it. I'm going to go to the windward side and try to get a moving bait bite going somehow.
Gotcha. All right. Joey Metcalf right there. Who else brings out the an ice jig as an alternative to a jigging spoon in the winter months? Was curious if anyone else has done it. So in the comment sections, if any of you guys use the ice jig, let him know there. But have you used it?
I have.
How was it?
I don't catch as many on it, but I know that ice jig is a killer deal. I know some of the guys at Lanier are using it.
Ooh, there you go.
Forward facing Sonar. I know a guy that used to go to Chickamauga and catch over 100 fish a day on an ice
jig.
And they are killer. And if I used it more, I would catch a lot more on it. But it's a different look than what they're seeing with the jigging spoons. So it might be time to bring that out.
Would you use it the same way as a jigging spoon?
Yeah, I haven't cast it out and hopped it back, but I have dropped it straight down on them, and it's got a real erratic. You don't know which way it's going to go when it falls, but that is a killer bait, and a lot of people catch a lot of fish on it.
Well, there you go, Joey. Appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
What about a feathered jig head?
Feathered,
like the
spoon or jig head?
Jig head. When you're stroking it, do you do that any?
Not so much, although that would work. I mean, really, I've stroked a swim bait a lot and caught a lot of fish I used to catch on the spoon. I've dropped it right to them and jigged it and caught them. But one little trick we used to use, and I haven't been doing it this year any, but that is you have your jigging spoon tied on, and up about this far, tie just a feathered treble hook on your line. And I've caught 2 at a time a lot of times, and some days they hit the feathered treble more than they hit the jigging spoon. But if you get 2 big hybrids on there, they're probably going to break your line.
Yeah, but that's some juice, guys, right there. Where else are you going to hear that? Is that a secret back there? Super secret. That's some juicy juice right there. That is full sugar. What do you call it back there, Tim? Ain't you got a word for it?
You get sugar-free juice or the full juice.
And this is the full juice, right? There
Absolutely.
we go. All right, scroll on down. Now we're about caught up with all the weights. Let's see if we got any questions.
He was asking about the pound test on the show.
Yeah, go ahead while he's looking for the next question.
What pound test?
He was talking about what? Oh, there you go. Adam
What pound
W.
test for shaking clear water. I'm on most of my spinning rods. I've got 10-pound braid with an 8-pound leader, and that's mostly what it is for everything.
Gotcha. Okay. Evidently Georgia Tech is winning 13-7. Dane calls it a girls' school, but he is watching it. I'm just telling you right there. So Jeremiah says dead stick and Ned rig, or drag, and Barday says drag a little spotty. When the Ned rig got big, the first limit I ever put together in a tournament was on Allatoona, throwing a Ned rig and just dragging it. And it was like felt like I caught every fish in the lake. Now, granted, they weren't big, but a Ned rig will get you bit. And then if you got the extra skill to put it in places like Barday and you guys you can catch some big fish on a Ned rig.
Oh, yeah.
Especially spotted bass.
Yeah.
You can, but it has nobody respects it at all. 2W Fishing right there at the top. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Rock crawler is about to be a big player. Any other crankbaits you like to throw December through February? Always start off with the rock crawler, though.
Rock crawler has got several different versions, and it's a great series of baits to throw. I like to throw the regular RK55 to fish anywhere from 5 to 12 feet. But if I'm in that 4 to 8 foot range specifically, just the 55 MD is a good one. But yeah, I've got others. I mean, I'm a tackle junkie. I've got humpies that are, I guess, antiques now, little humpies made by Rebel that were made back in the 60s that are great. I've caught a lot of fish on them. The DT series Rapalas are good. The DT6 is an all-time great crankbait. But since I've started fishing the rock crawlers, man, they're hard to beat.
They are very hard to beat. Let's see. Ever throw a single tail grub?
I have thrown a single tail grub. For me, I guess a single tail grub was the forerunner to all these Kitech swim baits and other swim baits that got so popular. That little single tail grub was a killer on the Tennessee River and other places, big smallmouth. I'm
glad you said that, because back when Blue Ridge was a smallmouth lake, before the spots got in there and did everything, that's how we would target a smallmouth, was a little white single tail grub on a ball head, just chunked out and slow rolled. That was one of the ways we targeted them.
There's been BASS tournaments, one on Pickwick on grubs way back before before the swim bait became a category. I
Great
guess.
On bridge pilots too. Single
tail grub. You probably, with all the baits the guys have seen, you probably at the baits these fish have seen, the Kitechs on it, you probably could go out and throw a single tail grub right now and give them a little bit different presentation, and you'd probably get slammed on it.
I'm sure you could.
You can't fix. I mean, some things you just don't need to be fixed. I did see a question from Jeremiah Giles up there about the Flex-It spoon or those type of spoons. Do you bend it for different actions or just fish it straight out of the box?
I've played around with bending it, but the one I've been catching so many on here lately, it was a white with the silver decal on both sides. Well, now it's just lead. It's been eaten off of it, and that spoon actually has a bend in it, but I didn't purposely bend it. But I'm not messing with it since it works so good.
Nothing. I don't blame you right there. That's funny. Austin Lanier. Guys, keep them coming. This is great. Do you find the bigger spotted bass like to settle in the ditches with other smaller spots, or they hang out more over timber in smaller groups? I will tell you what guys in the shop say, and then Mr. Bill can answer that. I always hear it. We actually talked about it with Kevin the other night. If you're in an area and you're catching 1 and 2 pounders, odds are that's what you're going to catch the majority of the time. If you get in an area with 3 or 4 pounds, like they group together by size. There's always the outliers, but do you find that to be, in your experience? And that's Lanier specifically what I'm talking about.
At Allatoona, of course, we don't have timber, but I don't think the biggest spotted bass generally are in the ditches. But I'm happy to catch 2 and 2.5 and occasional 3.
Yes, sir.
And maybe once in a blue moon, a 4-pounder.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the biggest spotted bass are in the ditches in Allatoona generally. Some of the bigger spotted bass are out in open water
Still roaming, chasing bait.
Yeah, looking for bait, but those are fish we never used to fish for, but some people are catching them with forward facing sonar. I mean, just like if you watch the Smith Lake tournament back this summer, BASS tournament, everybody was out scoping in deep water and catching those fish, and some of them are out there, but some of those biggest spotted bass act like largemouth.
Yeah.
They are in heavy cover, and they're shallower.
Yeah.
Even when the weather, especially when the weather is rough.
You think
it starts sleeting,
it
starts snowing on a winter day, it clouds up. Those big spots are shallow.
And I know you like to fish in that kind of weather, because I remember a couple years ago you were on Carter's or something during a snow or something. You about didn't get your boat out of the ramp or something like that.
Yeah.
You like being out there. So I will say on Lanier, the general consensus is your bigger spots are going to stay over the timber. But again, Allatoona and lakes like that don't have that timber. So that's what kind of changes Lanier amongst all the other lakes.
I went to Lanier one day in January last year, and I'm not a Lanier expert.
I'm not either.
Wouldn't claim to be, but I guess we caught over a 20-pound stringer in 55 feet in the timber on a Ned rig.
I love it. I love it, because that leads me right into the next question right there, King of Bass. When does Ned rig season start? I will tell you, you can fish a Ned rig year round, but it was a cold water technique kind of originally from the Midwest. That old guy whose name was Ned or whatever, that's what he was using it for, right?
Yeah, well, he was fishing it year round.
Yeah.
And out in Kansas in little public lakes out there, and he would go fishing almost every day. I had occasion, and anybody could see it, but somebody, I don't know if it's Bass Fan or who, published his fishing diary or logs for several years.
Right.
And I read through a lot of them, and it's really amazing catching 60 to 100 bass every day and all that. But for me, the Ned rig, and it just may be my deficiency. I'm not saying this is the way it absolutely is, but I catch a lot more fish on the Ned rig as it starts to get cold and through the winter and up into early spring and in the spawn. Of course, I'm changing the weight of the heads when the fish start spawning. But after the spawn and in the summer, I do much better on the finesse worm than a Ned rig.
What does a Ned rig actually, what is it trying to portray? What do fish think a Ned rig is?
I have no idea, but I think that it comes closer to a crawfish than anything.
Like a juvenile crawfish or something, yeah?
Berkeley did tests years ago. They've done more study of bass and what they will bite. And they started off, this article is available to read on the internet, but what sticks with me, they started with these most realistic looking crawfish imitations with anatomically correct everything. And I mean, they looked great, as much to matching a crawfish as you could. But what they found in their test, and it's exactly my experience too, when they started pulling appendages off of that crawfish looking bait and trimmed it down to where it was more slimmer, the more bites it got from the bass in their tanks.
Really?
So that's why, there used to be a company called Madman that made a crawfish that looked, man, when I first saw that, I thought, gosh, you can't fish crawfish, but if you use that, man, they'll just eat that up.
Right.
I've never been able to really catch fish on the most realistic crawfish baits.
Okay.
But when you get them trimmed down, Zoom has their
Vibrocrawl.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great bait, but man, it's mostly a cylinder or a slim line with the
2 pinchers.
the two kicking tails on it. But I think a Ned rig bait just carries that to right in the vein of what the Berkeley scientists said the bass would bite more. The more appendages they tore off to where it just had a main body, the more bites they got.
That's interesting. That would be a good article to read. That would be a good article to read right there. So Bill Dance was named after Bill Payne, says love to fish. Yeah, he was good Lord right there. Adam W. Fish and Bill, when you do fish a Ned rig, is it on an exposed hook?
Hardly ever.
Yeah, I pour the weedless Ned here, and that's what I like to use because you can put that joker in brush.
You can cast that anywhere in brush or wherever, and I think the hookup rate is so close to an open hook. I wouldn't say it's as good,
but you can put it in places.
You can put it everywhere, and I think the difference is so small. I don't worry about that.
Joshua Goad says goose poop, it's a turd. Hey, listen, it is. That's why people call it that. But if you look at the next few comments right there, it imitates a crawfish without craws. Net equals crawfish without pinchers. And then Ken Pruitt, who is our resident nerd, book with the Berkeley study that he's talking about is called Knowing Bass. Probably available on Amazon. So Knowing Bass.
Probably so.
Huh?
Think about the jigs. You put a Ned on the back of a jig.
A lot of guys do, yeah.
Trailer. I get more bites with a Ned than I do any kind of.
Yeah, that was what Farmer was talking about that night, right?
Yeah, he was giving that up the other night.
Yeah, and then Randy Blockett did it like 2 nights later. So, Randy, if you're watching, just pick anything tonight. You can put it on. You can make a video on it. Stephen Bardet says they want to eat a Ned rig. Like I said, anytime I go to Allatoona, actually, I caught some on a Ned rig. I fished an electric tournament out of Stamp Creek about 4 weeks ago. Some of my bites came on a Ned rig. Definitely slow on the bottom. Mr. Payne, have you tried the 6 cents curveball 55? I don't even know what the hell that is.
Is that a crankbait?
A finesse crankbait?
I may have one of those, but it's not something that I've really put to work. Although some of those, some of their baits, 6 cents, they make some nice looking baits.
They do make some nice looking baits. They do that for sure.
And I'm sure it could work good.
He said, yes, sir. Same thing as a rock crawler. So that's what he's talking about. So, yeah, I mean, that's just that profile this time of year, like you said, with the DT6s and stuff as well. Let's see. Where is that? Cody Campbell. If you're going to crank rock during the winter, do you target shaded or sunny? Or does it make a difference when you're looking at the structure and you're throwing a crankbait? You hitting the shade first or sunny? What you looking for?
I simplify it more than that. I kind of, a few years ago, the fella up at Chickamauga, Andy.
The Talking Tackle?
No, guy from, I'm having one of my senior moments here, but
I haven't.
Anyway, he was FLW Angler of the Year. He's
Andy Morgan.
Andy Morgan's who I'm trying to think
I knew
of.
you would know.
You're
sharp.
I only know that about as well as my own name, but he was kind of in a slump on his tournament fishing. He's one of the best all-time tournament fishermen ever. But anyway, he was having a rough 2 or 3 years, and he said, I just decided one day that I was going to, instead of jumping all around to these good places I thought I had, what I would find in the tournament, he said, I've decided to adopt a pattern of fishing just whatever was in front of me. And so when I think about rocks, I'm going to fish whatever's in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the mornings, there's going to be a good morning bite most of the time for a brief time, whether the water's really stained or not. And so there are times when shade is a real deal and you need to target it as much as you can. Even buzzbait fishing in the late spring, early summer, you fish low light and then the sun comes up and then you're going to have to chase the shade. There's going to be little banks that have little shade lines, sides of docks that have shade. So shade is cover a lot of times for bass. So I wouldn't say that it's a bad tactic to fish the shady ones, but also you got to think in the winter in the afternoon and it warms up that some fish move up shallower into the rocks and so forth. So I might not want to target shade as much, but looking at shade is never a mistake. I would say that.
Makes sense. So Sham says, Danny, we need you to fish in a kayak, man. Listen, I got one sitting right back here. I got that Crescent Shoaly. Let's get through deer season. We get through deer season after the first of the year and gotta wait that water warms up because I might fall out. So I don't want to freeze, but I am going to fish some out of a kayak next year. Might even jump in one of them tournaments here or there. Austin Leroy again, drain ditches versus inflow ditches. Or does that matter in or after rain?
Well, I kind of look at drains as a category, and whether they're a live feed or not, I'll look at them and if the bait's there. Now, there's been instances for sure when you've got inflow that it can pull bass to the back and so forth and create opportunities to catch some fish that you might not otherwise catch. But for bait and so forth and fishing bait out on in the deeper water, I don't really make a distinction that much.
Okay.
Although any drain is going to have, catches runoff.
Right. That's
but
right.
It's different than a live feed creek.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I think that would be like the live feed creek might be more helpful in the summertime in the heat because the water's coming in a little bit cooler, maybe.
But I remember fishing a tournament at Lanier back in the early 80s, and it was in November and it was cold and it rained one night. It was a 2-day tournament, and they used to have it Pine Isle down there on Lanier Islands. And this fella from South Carolina, I don't think he hardly caught a fish the first day, but on Saturday night it rained, and it rained a bunch. And that next morning he went back in Flowery Branch to this culvert or where water was pouring in and caught about a 25-pound bag of largemouth and won the tournament.
Really?
On a shad wrap. And he caught them.
You got warm water rain too. That's what
an
influx.
That makes sense. Let's see. Was there a question out above Cody Campbell? Nope. But Anthony Hampton says, good luck finding knowing bass there like gold, hard to find. But if you come on down in the comment sections now, come on back down to Aaron Young. Aaron, appreciate you joining us. I found a PDF of knowing bass. Used to have a copy and a friend lost it. So there is, maybe you can tell us where we can find it. That would be pretty cool. Steve Titsworth right above him. Love all the info. And I told you, Steve, we'd talk more about the winter fishing the other night. He tuned in the other night. And we got talking about them tournaments and that cheater and all that. We didn't get as much stuff, but I told you we'd get to it tonight. Love all the info. For a Tennessee guy coming down to Lanier for the first time, where would you start will be my third Georgia lake. And I guess that depends on how you like to fish.
When you're coming.
Yeah, and when you're coming. So I would say if you're coming in the next month, I don't know. I've gotten hooked on that south side. Just the guys I've been with and Kevin. I've just been converted to the south side.
Well, I'll tell you, your guest the other night dropped a little tidbit that I would say would be one of the easiest things to tell somebody that had never been to Lake Lanier that they could do with confidence.
What, Kevin the other night?
Yeah.
I don't remember. What was it?
It was fish some docks.
Oh, yeah.
And it used to be a thing. I tell you, in the 80s, you could tell somebody that never been to the lake, if they didn't know anything else, you need to cast a worm around docks and find some of them that have some brush around the corners.
Yeah.
And work that worm around them. And if I didn't know anything and I came to Lanier, I would at least give that a shot because it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to know any secrets. You can go out on the lake, find some docks on a deep bank in a long pocket or something, work them and see what happens.
Yeah, I know Lanier has no shortage of docks.
Now, if you want to be experiment and look around, and you got more than a day or two, then you can get out on the timber edges, the ditches, and do a lot of things.
I mean, it's
But
38,000.
that's the short version of what I would tell somebody.
Yeah, well, listen, you're smarter than I am, and that make you and Kevin both, so that makes sense. Let's see, checking the comments, going down. Cody Campbell says that's kind of what I did here recently. A Hartwell had one fish, 5 hours, got on some rock, and just went down the bank. It saved my day because he had only had one fish 5 hours. So that makes sense. Love to Fish wants to know, Bill, what's the biggest spot you've caught on Allatoona?
7.2 in 1982.
Listen, okay.
82?
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask, Bill, when in the hell did you catch that fish? 1982.
The worst part about it is I knew 3 or 4 guys that caught bigger ones than that in those few years there. 7.4, 7.5.
What'd you catch it on?
A plastic worm at night on a brush pile that I'd put out, and on a point that had a steep ledge on it, and I could hardly ever even get in that brush pile. It just wasn't easy to pull a worm through, and most of the time I couldn't even feel it because it had kind of fell off to the side of it. But
You still put out brush piles?
no, I haven't in many years.
I bet you know where a few are, though.
Well, I know where tons of them are, but
I bet he knows where
I
they're at.
wish, if I lived closer to the lake, I'd probably have me an old pontoon boat with a work deck on the front of it.
Oh, yeah.
But it seems like to me, and I may be just wrong, but it seems like people are putting out less brush at Allatoona. Maybe that's not true, but I'm thinking with forward-facing sonar and the lake being drawn down, a lot of people don't want to do the work for everybody else to fish. But some guys are pretty sneaky. They're putting it around marina dock corners and hanging them on cables and so forth. And maybe they're making them smaller too, so they're not just.
Well, they definitely probably aren't talking about them near as much, or even when somebody finds one, because of forward facing, I would say.
Yeah,
And it's funny, it's interesting because when doing this podcast 2 or 3 years ago, seems like we had a conversation about brush piles every 3 or 4 episodes. It would come back up, but now it's not even really a conversation anymore. So that's
easy to find now.
Yeah, it's easy to find. I might park my boat for the rest of the year if I caught a 7-pound spot. Me too. What's the biggest spot you ever caught out of Carter's?
Like a 680 something.
Do you find that the spots in Carter's over the last few years, the size average has gone down?
Absolutely.
What do you think is the reason for that?
I have no idea other than
Maybe pressure.
Lakes seem to cycle, and Carter's for size is I'd consider on a low ebb. I mean, when we were floating fly fishing out there, we caught 6s every year.
Yeah.
A few.
Yeah.
But
we used to see a lot more pictures of them like 4 or 5, 6 years ago than you do now.
Well, I mean, I think, and I'm not up there for all the tournaments or whatever, but I know that some of the tournaments, sometimes 3 pounds and something's big fish. That used to never be.
Right.
But now I do occasionally see a big one get caught, but I think, it's hard. I don't go up there and catch a bunch of 4-pounders in a day like I have in past years. It's a lot harder than that. I mean, and I think the tournament weights reflect that, even though, there'll be a big weight along. But gosh, I've been up there when I've seen 24 and 25-pound stringers, and it's been a long time.
It's not for lack of bait, for sure, though, because even the striper guys,
there's a good bit of bait,
but
I don't know. Up there, I think those alewives are the predominant bait. And what I saw for a few years, recent years, that the bait and the fish got deeper every year.
Because alewives like to stay down as opposed to the bluebacks that are higher.
And really, we used to, in the ditch fishing through the winter, we used to never catch any little fish. I always thought if there was a little fish out there, it'd get eaten by big bass or stripers or something. But now you can catch little fish out in those ditches.
Really?
Yeah.
It is changing. It is interesting. A lot of lakes do that. Eventually, a lake's going to go through up and down, up and down.
Could it be overpopulated with smaller fish?
It's not a big lake. What is Carter's? 36, 3,700, 3,200? It's not a big lake. So, I mean, the striper guys say it's overpopulated with bait. Every time we have a striper guy like Jeremy Mullinax from Backwoods, when we come on talk stripers and he's on Carter's, he just raises Cain about the amount of bait. He says it's stupid the amount of bait they got in that lake. I don't know, but who knows? Smarter people than us can figure out. Tony does say that if you want a copy of Knowing Bass, it's available on Amazon for $169. But he checked it out from the Pines Library System. Always check your local library. Trip fishing. Hey, yeah, better late than never, dog. Mark Garrett. Oh, this is a good loaded question right here. I like these kind of questions. What pattern would you run right now to catch 20 pounds on Kiwi or Hartwell? Bill, what would you do to catch 20 pounds on Kiwi or Hartwell?
I would become a forward-facing sonar expert and go over there and fish out in front of, out in the deep water.
I hear you. So, Tritz, let's see. 2W fishing. There's a lot of good bluff walls on Lanier. How do you depict the good walls from the bad? I guess the ones you get bite on would be my simple answer. Is that's the good. But let's say, and Chick's got a lot of them too. So
well,
how do you
I mean,
pick 'em?
I'm not the Lanier expert, but if you want to just talk about bass fishing in general, I mean,
yeah,
look at those bluff walls where the channel runs up close, and look at the channel swings where I mean, you can go down the bluff wall, but where the channel leaves that wall, there's a little transition area you could key on.
Mm-hmm.
There's one on the other end where it comes in and meets the wall. There's a little transition area, but those are good ways to check it out. But, some banks might have a tree on it. You just have to, I don't know any way of just looking at one and telling. Now, maybe I'm not a bluff expert per se, but
that's good points. You pull out one of them old school maps. It'll show you where the channel goes up and hits it and everything. So, Farmer, be careful going to Oklahoma. So he's getting ready for a trip to Oklahoma tomorrow. So be careful with that. Seaburger 03. What about the Christmas trees put out by DNR?
Well, the ones that I know about are shallow.
Yeah.
And yeah, when the water's in particular, I like it when the water's stained and those trees are fairly shallow and it's not the dead of winter, and I catch them on spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, occasionally flip one out of that stuff. But, everybody sees it. That's really heavily fished pretty much.
Right.
Now, if there's others that are in deeper water or whatever that I might not know about, any kind of cover out in the water, especially if it's got 12, 15 feet of water on it, much less a little more, could be good, whether it's DNR trees or any other tree.
I got a question for you. When I fished Allatoona, we were fishing Stamp Creek, and I'd heard people talking about the DNR had cut trees down, and I noticed they were cut down and they were chained.
Yeah.
Is that just so people can't drag them and move them? What's the purpose of that?
It's safety.
So they don't float down?
Even when years ago Mike Buca had a tree cutting project, the requirement was that only certain trees were marked and cut. Those that were going to fall over anyway, the roots had been washed out, and then you had to secure them with rope or cable. They don't want them floating off and having a boating hazard or anything like that.
They cut a bunch down in Stamp Creek.
And they did. They've done it around the lake, and those are stations per se for the DNR when they release. There's been hundreds of thousands of largemouth released over the years, last few years, and they will release a lot of those fish around some of those areas, and that's where they will do their creel studies, and they call them stations.
Okay.
And I had the biologist told me a couple of years ago that I think they released one it was back in one of the releases in 2014. They shocked it up a couple of years ago, and it was like 8 pounds or so, 8 or 9 pounds.
Did you see that 12-pounder that was caught?
Mm-hmm. It was caught out of a tree too.
Yeah, and I got that guy's hat over here. He signed it for me. The hat, he caught it in a fish, had a Fish North Georgia hat on and signed it. So
They've done it in Stamp
'cause of the
Creek.
hat.
They've done it
Yeah.
up in Clear Creek.
that's
There
right.
may be some in Illinois Creek.
Scroll up to that first comment right there. It's about halfway if you don't want. Ned Cady, I think I'm saying that last name right, from Lawrence, Kansas, brought the Ned rig to mainstream. So that's exactly right, Christopher Henry. So there you go on that. Tom Erico, I like this comment. Longer walls hold fish, but shorter walls concentrate fish. Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. Mark Garrett, favorite fall going into winter plastic color. So let's go with two of those. So let's say you're a worm or bottom bait like that and a swim bait. What's your favorite color?
Well, since I had a little hand in it, my favorite and has been for the last 3 years is the Fish Co. Crawl Orange Swirl. It's a natural color. I've caught a ton of fish on it, and that's, it's a derivative of a green pumpkin color.
Right.
It's multicolored, and it's a good color. But, if you just want to go for a category of a color, green pumpkin, it may be the most overused and overfished color there is, but it still works.
Yeah.
The spots like it.
Let me ask you this on a personal level. How does it feel to help design a lure or a color or whatever it is, put it on into your rod, catch a fish with it, and knowing the fact that, I had a hand in that color. I had a hand in it. I mean, honestly, be honest.
Not much. If it was something revolutionary that had never been done, that nobody had thought of, I might kind of say, well, that was a good idea. But basically, mostly colors are just, derivatives of stuff you've seen before.
Yeah.
And so forth. Now, if I did a bait design, if I was the guy that did the Parks guy that had invented or developed the rage tail to make the tails kick on the baits and so forth, I might think, well, I'm pretty smart.
I think you're selling yourself short.
And he made a lot of money on that
he
too,
did.
because Strike King has to pay him for all that.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, if you invent something where you get a paycheck still, mailbox money.
If it's that good,
if you get mailbox money. Bobby G caught a 7.6 large jaw on Lanier today. So I assume Trent and them got his boat done, because I saw one Mr. G's boat over at Sonar Pros, which, again, if you want to have the best install your sonars, take it where the pros take it. And that is, take it there. Marcy wants to know, what bait would you use right now? And I guess that's general. Like, if you're just going and you only have one bait to throw right now, you just get one bait in your boat, what you throwing right now? So all you get to fish with tomorrow is one bait. Try to catch
a radar shad.
Radar shad from Fishco.
Yeah.
Got the minnow.
Or something like it.
Minnow. He's throwing a minnow. Stephen Barday. Boy, he's staying with us a long time tonight. Pumpkin is natural enough for clear water, but dark enough for dirty water. And that is kind of true. I talked to a guy came in today, a young guy that fishes Lake Arrowhead, one of the smaller community lakes. It's not very small. I guess 100, 200 acres, still big lake, but it's extremely clear. And he said sometimes you can see 15, 20 feet down. And I said, and he was asking me what colors to throw. And I said, I would go with like a green pumpkin or maybe something like that, a pumpkin, because it's just natural looking. It doesn't really like explode out as something like, a Morning Dawn or something, would it just, to a fish in clear water, probably the boringer it is. Maybe that's the more boring the color is, the better.
Well, those green pumpkins and browns are great daytime clear water colors, but there's been times when I've fished into the night and kept that color on, and the fish just keep biting it.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask me if what color I want to use at night, I'm probably going to tell you something else, darker colors, blacks, purples,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But that green pumpkin may work as good as anything, even in day or night.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. All right, guys, we're getting close to the end of the show. So if you got a question real quick and you want me to get it in for Mr. Payne, you got about 3 minutes. If your question shows up in the next 3 minutes, I'll make sure we ask it. I got a question about Allatoona because, again, Lanier is the lake that drives the boat around here, if we're all honest. But when they drop a lake like they do Allatoona, and we're getting colder, the lake is still dropping now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're still dropping it, and you get one of these cold snaps. With the water down, does it affect the fish more because it's water, the water level dropping, you get some cold at the same time? Does it put them in any kind of funk? Because you probably got the turnover going. Is it just a weird time of year to fish it right now, or can it make it?
I don't think so. I mean, a lot of times I like the lake to be drawn down some. It exposes some of the rocky places, and it just seems like good rocky cover and flat points. The more they drop it, the more that those little areas become premium areas for fish to be in. And,
yeah.
And I don't know, they're in the fall, we're technically still in the fall. There's it's not just a theory, it's really fact that a lot of times when they're dropping the lake and it gets cold, it moves some fish shallow.
Yeah.
I used to, the old theory was, it gets cold, all the fish are going to go deep, but that's just not true.
Right. I get that. Let's see. Austin Lear, where exactly do we send a message for the drawing for the Toys or Tots? Again, that's Fishers of Hope has paid for a entry. If you will get on Facebook, message me at Danny Pruitt. Send me a messenger with your name and all that. I'll make sure. Or you can do it straight to Fish North Georgia on Facebook. Let's see. Mr. Bill probably fished all day, drove to Marble Hill, did a podcast until 10, drive home to Calhoun, wake up and fish again. He's a badass.
Well, I didn't hardly do it. I'd like to take credit for it. But
Jonah. Yeah, let's see. Jonah, let me tell you about Jonah. Jonah's a high schooler, or actually just graduated high school, getting into fishing. I've been fishing Allatoona on the bank recently and caught some spots on a jig and a jerkbait. He fishes it from the bank a lot. When it gets colder, any tips from being from the bank on Allatoona?
Just well, as Jonah. It gets colder and if it gets stained up, crankbaits that you can work back toward the bank that don't dig too much to hang up against the rocks and so forth. But there's certain areas from the bank that can be pretty good. I don't know all of them, of course, but
right.
But as it gets colder, and we likely are going to get some, but a jig's still going to work, and the jerkbait can too. But if it gets muddy, I might switch to some other things. But Ron Swinford, he made a post up there earlier about fishing with me and catching fish. Well, Ron, I saw him not too long ago, and he was fishing. He just ran down to the boat ramp to fish for a little bit. He was catching them from the banks.
Yep. Absolutely. So Michael Harden says, I heard a black worm with a white tail is good at night with a question mark. Is that I've never heard of it. I'm
sure it could be very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonah, Jeremiah can answer that one. So Jonah, you might want to message Jeremiah because he fishes from the bank a lot.
Absolutely.
What's our weekend hours this week at the shop? 8 to 12 on Saturday. 8 to 12 on Saturday. If people are here, I'll keep it open. Or if I know you're coming from a long way and you let me know, I'll stay open. Never open on Sunday. That's family day. Go to church and hang out with the fam, watch some football. Everybody needs one day. I always have one day with the family. So with that, Bill, I'm going to tell you what. It's always a pleasure when you come up here. And there's a guy, Tom Erico says, happy Thanksgiving and especially wishes to Bill Payne. Hoping you come back on the show. It helps for better fishing. Bill is going to be back on. Trust me. He's one of my one of the best guests that we have as far as just straight up. Here it is. This is what you need to do. Try it. Some things may work for you. Some things may not. But you got a lot of great options. So, Bill, real quick, for some of these guys that watch this now, or if you're watching in the future, Bill Payne Guide Service, how can they get in touch with you if they want to book a trip?
Just look me up on Facebook, message me. My phone number's on there, 706-280-2305. You can text me, call me, hit me through Messenger on Facebook. Look at my website. It's got my number on it. I'm not hard to find, and if I don't answer, you can believe you'll get a call back.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. And one of the cool things Bill and I talked about is possibly getting on his boat with some cameras, taking some of the cameras at the guys that filmed the TV show, and getting out, miking him up, miking me up, getting out there, spending a day with him on the lake, kind of just a good time and learning even more with that. But it's always great when you come because we always learn something. And that, I have a lot of great guests that come on, but when you come on, we always learn something. And you guys in the comment section, hey, listen, y'all make the show and y'all ask some fantastic questions. Tony Watkins, what time is the weigh-in for the Toys for Tot tournament? It will start at 3 p.m. So, again, that's December 7th out of Laurel Park. Pre-registration at Buford Dam Bait and Tackle or here at Fish North Georgia. And if you're from out of town, you can message me at 678-283-6700, or you can hit me on Messenger and I will get you signed up. Pre-registration goes through the 29th, and then you can sign up the day of. So roughly 7 o'clock will be blast off for the first flight, and then we will start the weigh-in at 3. The podcast will go live on our YouTube channel at 2 o'clock that day. And then we had to change it a little bit. We did find out this. I was telling you guys I was going to get to be on the stage doing the MC and the weigh-in. Well, according to some insurance regulations that I completely understand, because they're going to have a real BASS kind of weigh-in stage. According to the insurance, since I'm not an angler, I can't be on it. So what we're going to do is park the podcast as the anglers walk off, and the hot seat is going to be right beside me. So we're still going to be calling it, talking it all the way through, but whoever's in first place until somebody bumps them off will be right beside me. And it's going to be a good time. And even if you're not fishing, come hang out with us and bring some toys. You can bring them to the shop, but just come bring some toys. And again, the address, if you go back through, if you want to send some toys here to the shop, absolutely. I got a Toys for Tot box out here. It's somewhere in there that, you just have to dig and find it. But it's there, or you can just again call me. What you got to say?
Let me just say,
whatever you want.
I want to thank all these guys for participating. Thank them for the questions. Appreciate you guys that tuned in. Listening to what I've got to say, and any of my buddies out there, thank you for listening in too. I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you.
Absolutely.
You're good people, and that's a good thing.
Great.
Bill, you're just good people. You've always been good to us here, so we appreciate you a lot. Tim, you did an outstanding job. I know you're under the weather tonight, but you soldiered through it, so I appreciate you coming up here and doing that.
Absolutely.
We appreciate Kevin for his
that
question.
A Krispy Kreme donut won't cure.
That's exactly right. He's a cop. I bet he eats some damn donuts. I bet he eats some donuts.
Yeah, and thank y'all for having me up here too.
Oh, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Info, let me real quick, Huddy to go. Info you may have about middle and high school tournaments. This is Granddad here. I will say this: go on Facebook and go to Georgia. I would just type in like Georgia High School Bass. There's several different ones. They all have them. I don't have any particular information, but there's a lot of them out there. And so that's the best place. Georgia Bass High School. Do you know any of them, Tim, real quick?
Not right off the top of my head.
The AHSBS mainly services Bartow, Cobb, and Gordon.
Yeah.
That's a more local high school group. They fish
up in that area.
Yeah, the Allatoona, Lanier, Chickamauga. That's a good group.
Yeah, there's a high school tournament trail that does Sunday tournaments on Lanier, and I want to say it's the Georgia Bass High School Trail. I think so. Anyway, guys, listen. Hey, again, Toys for Tots tournament, get pre-registered. Also, Fishers of Hope, we got the drawing. If you're interested, send me your name. Next Tuesday night, we're going to draw that. There is that November 23rd, Fishers of Hope has that benefit tournament on Chateau, benefiting Mars Hill area in North Carolina. Georgia Bass Nation is what I fish. It is for the whole state. So there you go. That's some information. You guys listen. Tonight and tomorrow is the last day to pre-order your Fish North Georgia camo hoodie. And I think I've got it all. Am I forgetting anything that I may have mentioned, you guys? We got it. All right, listen, guys, we appreciate Mr. Bill. We appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. If you're on the water, be safe. We'll see you next Tuesday.